fall of man, and Eve eating of the fruit of the tree of good and evil, and all of humanity is therefore cursed. In the flood, we have all these children who were deemed wicked just because God didn't like the people and saved Noah and his family. Taking God's name in vain in the commandments. To make slaves of a whole race of people, and so this notion that children are innocent is completely at odds with many of the Bible stories where children are being punished for the sins of the parents, and there's many more examples of this. There's a claim in the Bible that unborn children, or there's a claim in the pro-life movement that unborn children are alive, and in the Bible. Especially in the Old Testament, there's a very strong notion between being alive and breathing, and very often you'll see when someone's dying, they exhaled, they expired, they breathed their last breath, and then they died. And these two things are at once, and unborn babies don't breathe, and so there's this question whether or not you would actually claim these to be alive in the biblical sense. And then we can get off on this very interesting tangent of when, in the Old Testament there's no notion of a soul, but in Christianity in the New Testament there's a notion of a soul, and so when does that happen? When does ensoulment happen with a new child? And well, before the soul is there, you can't really claim that unborn child is human. Right? It's just like an animal or just like meat, any other thing. But afterwards, they become human. And there's a question of, isn't God smart enough to maybe put the soul in after the threat of abortion has passed?
Considering the large number of conceptions that result in spontaneous abortions, miscarriages, things like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Is God is really kind of the biggest abortionist, if you will, because if you're going to say that these things are acts of God or the will of God, there's a huge percentage of them. If you count non-implantations, birth defects, you count miscarriages, you count stillbirths, and so on, and all these things. There's a claim in the
the Duggars are trying to throw a curve to those statistics.
The Duggars?
Yeah, another quiverful.
Right. There's a claim in the pro-life movement that all human life is sacred, and you hear that a lot. And but here's another Bible quote that kind of turns that on its ear. Leviticus 21, 17 through 23. You want to try that one?
This is 21 what?
17 through 23. You're pretty good at whipping those out, man.
I know where they're at.
Okay.
21, although it starts at the bottom there. No descendant of Aaron the priest who has any defect is to come near to present the offering made to the Lord by fire. He has a defect. He must not come near to offer the food of his God. He may eat the most holy food of his God, as well as the holy food. Yet because of his defect, he must not go near the curtain or approach the altar and so desecrate my sanctuary. I am the Lord who makes them holy. And this is, of course, the NIV.
Okay.
So if you were to grab a King James...
It's very different. You want to read the King James?
The defect is in his stones.
Okay, what does that mean?
Any castrated male.
Right.
Anybody who's got, you lost a testicle in the war, you're screwed. You're not allowed to enter the Holy of Holies.
Yes.
Which could have a very different meaning in other contexts.
Okay. But here we have a case where in the King James version, there's even more. It goes on about whether a man has a blemish or is blind or lame or a flat nose or these sorts of things, and or dwarf. So these people are.
Well, they actually list specifics. The guys who did the King James translation decided there were a lot of people they didn't like. broken-footed, broken-handed, crook-backed, dwarf, blemish in the eye, scurvy, scabbed, or hath his stones broken. No man that hath a blemish of the seed of Aaron, the high priest shall come nigh. So basically, I just made a bunch of lists. We don't want to let those folks that sit out there and beg when you're coming into church. We don't want them coming in here, so we're going to add them to the list. Ooh,
that's right.
Please, sir, can I have some more?
But here's an example where you have a whole class of people.
We lost all calls.
We lost all calls. We have a whole class.
I don't even know if there were any that were legit.
Okay, we have a whole class of people here being basically labeled as not able to come to worship, right? They're officially non-safe. Okay, they're officially non.
We're streaming.
We're streaming. Okay, in the middle of the stream. Okay.
So I'll do when you reach your next stopping point, we'll do a special welcome for the stream folks.
Okay. Why don't we do it right now? That's fine.
Are you sure? I'm just kidding.
Go for it.
Okay, so for those of you who are watching on the stream who have been sitting there for the last hour going, what the heck is going on with these guys? Can't they do anything right? The answer is, yeah, we can.
It just takes us a while.
It's a new studio. We didn't have as much setup time as we wanted, and there were lots and lots of problems, right down to the fact that I had full phone lines, and now they're empty, and I still don't know who they were, but it doesn't matter because they're not there anymore. As a reminder for the folks out there, they'll put the telephone number up. If you're originally the plan was if you're outside the Austin area, in other words, watching it on the stream from Tennessee or something, don't call because we were going to try to see how many people we could get from the Austin area to call in. But since we've had so many problems, I'm not going to necessarily put that restriction on there. The guys in the studio already know to try and keep one of the phone lines available for Austinites and theists and people who want to tell me what a fat, bald moron I am.
Right.
So welcome to the streamers. Don is talking about more greatest hits from the Bible.
Sort of. Yeah.
In this case, movements that religions, in particular Christianity, have spawned without appropriate biblical support.
Yes, that's an example. And we're talking specifically about the pro-life movement and the Bible and how it's not supported by the Bible. So we talked just now about human life being sacred. I don't know when we're going to start taking calls.
When we get them.
When we get them?
When I get a message that there's callers.
Okay. But are you going to be able to see who's calling, or you
just keep on going?
Keep on going. Okay. I'm stalling for time here while I fix some of these problems. There's a claim I've heard that God owns the unborn children, and that they're His property. And if that's the case, if you own a rabid dog, and this rabid dog, is kind of going to do its own thing, and you may or may not have a whole lot of control over it, and it goes and bites your neighbor, and maybe mauls your neighbor's kid, right? Whose responsibility is that? Who is it? You going to blame the dog? Well, maybe you're going to scold the dog, but the ultimate person to blame is the owner of the dog, right? So if God owns the unborn children, it seems to me that He should be responsible for them, and He should pony up the money needed to raise the child and educate the child and these sorts of things. And one easy way to do this, I think, is to tax the churches and make sure that this money flows the appropriate way. So if He's responsible. And if He's responsible for children, isn't He responsible for all mankind? In which case, this whole doctrine of man sinning and going away from God and such is really God's fault. So this whole idea that God owns the unborn is really kind of flies against a lot of theology that's been built up over the millennia. And if you want to give that up, that's fine. I think it's terrible theology personally, but you need to really sort of understand the implications of your decision to do that.